In motion is Sewell. Goff to throw. Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it! Penei Sewell with a first down! Oh, yes! The big man dives down to the 31-yard line! Oh, that is beautiful!
Welcome to the Twentyman Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. And as we've been doing the last couple of weeks, I've been welcoming in some assistant coaches. It gives you guys and gals the opportunity to know a little bit more about our coaching staff, but also gives us an insight into the room, into you guys' history a little bit. So I enjoy doing it. And this week, I welcome in assistant offensive line coach Steve Oliver. Steve, thanks for joining the Twentyman Huddle podcast.
I appreciate you having me.
So let's start with this. You joined the Lions last season after spending 5 seasons in the college ranks. And kind of an interesting dynamic with your room is you were an offensive lineman at San Diego, and Hank Fraley, who's the offensive line coach, was your offensive line coach at San Diego too. So what's that experience like playing for Hank and now sitting in that room side by side coaching alongside Frank?
You know, it's interesting because it was the year after Hank retired, so it was his very first coaching job, and he was fresh out, and just I noticed a lot of the similar parallels of how he treated us as like grown men there in college. Like he ran it more like an NFL room where, you know, leadership from within the room, accountability that was giving you guys some of that leash and some of those higher level things that I was just a redshirt freshman at the time. And you don't quite realize what some of those things are then, but now you're like, okay, like this is kind of what it was. And some of the things that stuck with you. And then now it's just, you know, you see him, it's over 10 years later, but just, you know, how much he's, you know, how he's evolved, but how much is still the same. And just the big thing is just how he treats the guys, the respect, and, you know, you go and handle your business and he's going to let you, you know, handle it that way. And, but also, you know, be able to like get in those little like calculus things and make them basically seem easy when he explains it compared to like really it's something that's like a higher level process. And he's always had a knack of being able to do that.
How advantageous is it for you to come into a situation in the NFL having a guy who not only played at a high level for so long, but then now the experience of coaching, you look what he's done in developing guys in that room. It's one of the best offensive lines in football. Do you almost pinch yourself sometimes getting your first touch into the NFL, learning under a guy like that?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that what I think makes Hank so good at his job too is that Hank coaches to his personality, and he also like wants to do the same. Now, obviously, I didn't have the same career Hank did, and so it's taking what I can from all those little nuggets and things that, you know, from my own background, while also with my style of, you know, we're speaking the same language, we're saying the same things, you know, teaching what Hank's teaching, what, you know, Ben Johnson, the offense, Coach Campbell, all that. But it's also like within your voice, because that's the big thing is, hey, you have to speak your, you know, in your tone, the way that you are for the guys to you know, for the message to get across. And so that's been a big thing, learning from him that way and just seeing how he relates to each individual guy in a different way based on maybe what they need. Maybe somebody needs, you know, to be, you know, have the thumb on them a little bit more. Someone else is like, hey, here's this, you know, I got it. Just give me these. Here's little questions. Boom. And it's just really, you know, catering each way to what works best for the guys.
Speaking of backgrounds, your background before you got to San Diego, now you were recruited by some Ivy League schools. Am I right with this? So who's recruiting you?
I mean, it was, you know, the Brown. I took an official to Brown, you know, talked to Columbia a little bit, and, you know, heard from Harvard and those. But I mean,
you don't get recruited by those guys, Steve, unless, you know, you've got the mental capacity in the classroom as well. So I guess with that kind of a background in your playing career, what I guess is your style? You know, how would you describe your coaching style?
I would say it's, you know, attention to little details. Being able to communicate to guys from all different, you know, standings on the depth chart as well as different walks of life, and try to, you know, how does the message best hit them? Like, it's my job. I've kind of viewed it to be a translator at times where, especially at this level, I've noticed is a little different. You know, you get some guys that sign as free agents or, you know, rookies from different colleges, or, well, this is how the Detroit Lions do it. This is how we code it. This is how we say it. But also sometimes it's, oh, you learn it as this is similar to it this way, or no, it's not. And just kind of trying to, you know, speak their language early on to help the transition. And then it becomes fully like, no, we're going to speak our terms and say it this way. But if this kind of helps, you know, ring a bell, trigger it that way, I'd say something to that extent.
Okay. from the outside looking in, I love that O-line room. What is it like working with those guys? Because it's a collection of great vets. You've got some characters in there. You've got some young guys. I mean, it seems like a fun group to work with. Am I wrong from the outside?
No, it is. They're great, and the thing is they're great to work with. And in terms of from the vets, like since I got here back in 2021, it was you have guys like Frank, Taylor Decker, Jonah, that was the year we drafted Penei. We got Big V in there, and the thing is they're all pros. They all handle their business, but how well they treat other people. Especially in like my role when you're the assistant, and it's one of those that you try to stay in your lane within certain things, see what each guy needs. Obviously, some of those more established guys need a little bit less. Some of them, want a little more. Hey, watching this. And it's just the way that they interact with each other, the way they interact with us. It's really great. Like they'll have it'll be funny, but when it's time to work, they work. But can also that's something that reflects how Hank's always been too. Is we'll have a good time in the meeting room. We'll do this. They'll still laugh some at practice, but like when between the whistles, like we're going, and that's known, and that's the expectation that's set by those guys too ultimately, and they hold themselves to that, which I think is really important. It
seems like it's a really smart room too. Yes. From a smart guy yourself. I mean, guys that seem to really pick it up quick, just smart offensive linemen. And it really just starts with Frank first and foremost. And when you've got a Pro Bowler at that position, when you've got a guy who's considered one of the best in the league and is as intelligent as Frank is, how does that just set the table for everybody else?
I can speak from my own experience to start. Is it makes sure that you're on your stuff, because as the guy who draws the game plan each week, and those things better be dialed in, otherwise I'll be getting these texts at 5:45 in the morning like, is this what we're looking for? Is this right?
Do you really get texts that early in the morning, that late at night? That guys will just be
yes.
Really?
You'll get one occasionally, and it's good because they always laugh. They want to find the error because one, how well they know it, and two, it keeps you where you're making sure you're double, triple checking all your stuff. But it's in terms of setting it for the room, is he has so much on his plate, but he embraces it, and just to be so dialed in and play at such a high level. That he has, it's extraordinary to see, and like I have the utmost respect for him and the way he handles himself. I mean, he's a true pro, and he's great to be around, but he's also like he walks the walk. He holds people accountable because he does it himself too, which I think's really, really good to see.
And playing through the injury that he's been dealing with, just that toughness to go along with it too. I mean, it seems like it's everything that you guys talk about as a team, not just an offensive line room, right? The grit, toughness, availability is the best ability, all that kind of stuff. It seems like Frank just really embodies.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason that he's a captain. And for him, it's just to be able to play at that high level with that injury, and also just the fact of that's got to be mentally exhausting. Right. On top of it, that doesn't get talked about is how much that's you got to deal with too. You're basically on one foot, and
you're in the training room how many hours during the week while trying to game plan, do everything else.
Getting those reps, so you're ready to roll on Sunday, and then against the guys you're going against, or you're playing against some top level, some Pro Bowl guys on the other side as well. So to be able to do that, and then also not just do that but dominate is it's awesome. And we're fortunate obviously to have Frank. It's awesome, man.
Speaking of dominate, Penei Sewell, how good can this young man be? I mean, we've already seen it in just the second season. He was a Pro Bowler. I mean, are we talking about a guy who can be one of the best tackles in football, like bar none?
My opinion, absolutely. I mean, just the way he moves, and just the way you see from he got here, he's still 22 years old, I think, and just the way that he's grown, and just that the way he carries himself as a pro, that you wouldn't know he's a 22-year-old when it comes to the way he studies, the questions he asks, the way he's coaching the younger guys. Like we get the new the rookies in here, and the way he's working them on the side or doing little coaching points.
You gotta love that about that, right? It's that a young guy like that, because Taylor did it to him, right? Penei did it to him. Took him under the wing, and now for a guy in just his second season to start doing that for the rookies, I mean, that's how that whole room gets better, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it starts from the top. I mean, those vets are so good to those young guys in terms of being a helping hand, but also showing them the way. But also when they need a little prod, they'll do what they need to do that way. And obviously, it's great the way that they hold each other accountable, but it's the way that Penei's work ethic is, on top of the physical abilities and stuff he has, and just how important his craft is to him every day. It's wonderful to see. Like I can't really even put into words. Just
Yeah.
when you notice it, like it's great. I'm excited to see how this year is for him.
It's that kind of stuff, Steve, that makes a guy kind of a generational talent, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
When it's all encompassing, not just what you do on the field, but the preparation and how you make people around you better as well. I mean, that's got to be the exciting part for you and Hank.
Yes, it is. You're not wondering if he's at this or is he getting this done. Like he's going above and beyond just what's asked of him here, just because it's not what anybody else wants. That's what what Penei wants. Not to put any words in his mouth, but it's like he wants to be the best. He works like he wants to be the best, and it's obviously starting to show.
You saw the athleticism. He's had the big catch against Minnesota. I'm sure he's asking for a ton more of those. But does Taylor keep him in line? The fact that Taylor's got 2 touchdowns.
Hey,
I mean, the Taylor's still amongst the receivers on the offensive line. That's still Taylor's room, right? I mean, Taylor still has the clout in that with the 2 touchdowns, right?
Hey, it's it's one of those where we have the touchdown and the first downs. We have 1 ice in the game and we got 1 scoring points. And who knows, maybe this year we'll get some more. You never know, but no, it's definitely you get some good laughs out of it, and just it's competitive with those guys too. But they also want to make sure that it's run well. We have this one when Decker catches his touchdowns, guys want to make sure the play is executed, the cell's great, so he can catch touchdown. Guys want to make sure that, the pocket's clean, whatever it is, the cell is great on the run, so Penei can, catch the first down.
Yeah.
So little things like that it's really still is a group effort, but also so those guys can get that, get your reception, get your touchdown.
Speaking of Taylor, to me, a guy who maybe doesn't get the recognition for the kind of player and the kind of left tackle he is league wide. I know he was a alternate for the Pro Bowl, but I think it was 7th or 8th, and I think that he's a top 10 left tackle in this league. Just what kind of a leader is Taylor, and how important is he to this team, even though maybe he doesn't get the recognition of being one of the best left tackles in the game?
Absolutely, like you said, it's like he's across the league is so undervalued. Like I don't think he is a top 10 tackle in this league, and he shows that on a week in, week out basis. He's there. I think played every single snap last year. He's an elite pass protector. He gets movement in the run game. He's extremely, extremely smart. He has high football IQ. It's one of those that he possesses all those, as well as you said, like how valuable he's to the room in terms of as a resource for younger guys, as a resource just across the line for being able to be another set of eyes that sees things, understands what's going on, is on the same page, and just the way that he puts in the work, and it's important to him. I think he's going on year 8 now, and you'd argue that last year could have been his best season. Like the fact that he was down, like he should have been obviously much more than whatever alternate he was. Like he played at a Pro Bowl level last year,
right?
And it's a matter of continuing that way for him, knowing he'll build on that again this year. But it's he's invaluable to this team. It's what he does is awesome week in and week out. It's a huge reason for the success we have.
What does getting Big V back into that room mean?
Oh, it's the movement, especially with him and Penei. Just a large human that's that athletic and just moves people at that type of clip and has that type of athleticism. And the thing with him too is you miss the humor with him, and just
he does keep that room light.
I've never seen him in a bad mood.
Because you, as a media person, you do the interviews, and he's pretty humble, and he'll throw a joke here or there, but he seems fairly quiet. But from what I hear, that is not who Big V is in that room, right?
Not the Big V that I see. I mean, it's he keeps the room light, but it's one of those that I get a good laugh. Every day you see him, like he's the sun shining through the cloudy day, no matter what. And there's no ups and downs. It's like it's even keeled, but at a happy even keel. And it's he knows when it's time to work. It's time to work, and really excited to see where after not having him for this year, seeing what's going to happen once we get into camp. And it's great in OTAs, seeing him moving around and then getting the pads back on and watching him move people. I'm excited to see it.
How excited are you for that competition for that right guard spot too? I mean, just as well as I do, that competition breeds success. Absolutely. And so having Big V back, you guys signed the veteran Graham Glasgow, Colby Sorsdal. You've moved from tackle to guard. He looks like a promising one too. How much are you looking forward to having a little competition once training camp starts? Because that's just going to make everybody better, isn't it, Steve?
Like you just said it. It brings out the best in everybody, and so what's going to happen? Those guys will decide that. It's, by how training camp, how they play, the work they put in, the consistency factor, how well they play together. But the thing is, I know they're all hungry for it. And I can't wait to see how it's going to shake out, because iron sharpens iron, and across the board, not only do they make each other better in that, but also the guys around them, because it's you never know, like it's the best 5 are going to play, so it's just who's it going to be. It's like I said, they'll decide that, and they're putting in the work, showing that they all want to be that guy.
But after the top 5, and you see it every year, depth comes into play, because it's not injuries happen. That's just a part of this game. So when you start talking about guys like Owasika, Izzy, Afedi, Matt Nelson, just what do you like about the depth of this football team? It looks like you guys have some guys that have been starters in this league, that have played a lot of reps, and that's got to be maybe a calming effect in that room, knowing if something happens, you do have some guys that can step in.
It's nice because, everybody's got to bring their best every day. It's not like, coming from college where you get to have a roster of 105 people or whatever it might be, where you only get to carry 53, on top of your practice squad, and then active list is, obviously smaller based on NFL rules. So it forces everybody to bring their A game, every day to be in that group. And it makes everybody, be more consistent, and it's the resources for each other. It's they're competing on the field, but also it's not where everybody's standoffish. Guys are helping each other. Guys are working together. Those guys are, friends. They spend a lot of time together. And it's reassuring in terms of knowing that you have all these guys competing for these spots, but it's also, seeing who's going to separate, and, how that's all going to shake out, when the dust clears.
Is there any of those guys have maybe caught your eye a little bit this spring? Or I know coaches don't like to single out guys a lot.
I'll let you talk to guys. That's above my pay grade. Collectively, just seeing the way that they've attacked this offseason, that, there's guys we want to take that next step. Yeah. And, seeing the work that they put in, it shows that. And then, seeing guys be away for 2-3 months, whatever, during that offseason, then come back, in shape, and they're ready to roll. And now it's just seeing where we're at this year as a whole, compared to last year, in terms of the things where, you're still always focusing on the fundamentals and the basics when you first get back. But then just knowing you're farther along in terms of that progression, and okay, like we've hit that, now let's graduate to this. And that seems like it's going on faster because those guys are, they're ready to. It's a veteran room, and then it's, it's pulling those, younger guys with them as well, which is awesome.
The competition doesn't really start, Steve, until training camp, but does it ratchet up a little bit for minicamp? I know minicamp is headed next week. It's kind of 3 days in a row, a little more competitive, open to the media, and maybe there's some people watching. Do you sense the intensity ratchets up a little bit during minicamp, or is it still kind of like an OTA practice?
I think it's the fact that guys are proud to want to win, so it's like whether it's regardless of the rep, whether who it's against, whether it's on air to yourself, like guys are obviously competitive. You have the best of the best at this level, the most competitive of the most competitive, however you put it. And so I don't know if it's like anything's bigger than, but obviously guys are locked in. They know that, every day matters. Like you said, it's, truly when the pads go on is what separates guys. But, every day it's not like these are for nothing. So, and
there's
guys,
evaluation going on.
And guys know that. Guys know that, what you do every day, you're evaluated for. And so that's not lost on them. And I think it just continues to, knowing that, okay, maybe somebody does have a down day. Like it happens to everybody. Okay, how are you going to respond the next day? Yeah. Which is, just like the season, sometimes you have a down game here and there. Like, how are you going to bounce back? And, that short memory, and what were my mistakes? What are the main things we need to correct, and then get back out there that next day and ready to roll.
Colby Sorsdal, what did you guys like about him in the draft process, and what do you think he brings to the table?
The thing with him is, with Colby, he's played a ton of football, at a high level, and William and Mary I think it helps that you see, how well, he's a good athlete, he's does a really good job sustaining blocks. He's a really fast learner. You see him at the East-West Shrine, he's playing, guard in some of the practice, and then you see it as his pro day. Obviously, he trained, he was ready for that, and then just seeing how, I think the body of work as a whole, and when he dominated the competition he was playing against, and I think that's something to be said, as well as just how much you can see, even though it was all at that right tackle spot. I think a lot of that skill set shows, hey, can you move in, just put him in the phone booth a little bit more, and just knowing that he has the intelligence too. Like their offensive coordinator, Christian Taylor, actually, while I was a player at San Diego, he was an assistant coach, and with Tanner Engstrand and Hank, both were there with him. They all coached. So
you guys kind of knew, a little bit, some of the stuff maybe you don't see on the film, what maybe ticks behind the room, how does he pick up information, scheme, some of that stuff that maybe helped the evaluation as well.
It's just like, as you even hear, I know, talking to, when Brad and everybody throughout the building is, it's just another piece of information as well, and it helps that have that resources was somebody that we've all, known a decade and trust. And
Yeah.
to be able to ask, hey, and he's like, oh, like he's the real deal. He loves ball. He's smart. He basically, he's worked in their football offices in the off seasons, like because so it's just, you see that transition come in here where the biggest thing I can say about him is he's a fast learner. Hey, we want to do it this way. Hey, we're going to tweak your technique here. Let's try this. And to see it that next day, like boom, show up and you can see progress towards it. Now, obviously there's a little bit of drinking from the fire hose coming from, you get up here, but at the same time, it's, it's important to him putting in the work and just, once we get in pads, I'm excited to see once we get, the shoulder pads on and we actually start hitting, how that's going to transition. Cause he's made some good strides so far and obviously he has a long way to go like everybody, but it's been encouraging for sure.
And important in that room with that many veterans and that talent that you pick it up quick and
Yes.
translate it to the football field. Steve, I want to finish with this. What's the goal for that room? Obviously, you look nationally, Detroit, Philadelphia, kind of right there, considered the top offensive lines in football. But what's the goal this time of year heading into the offseason? Is it have the lowest sacks in the league? Is it be a dominant run team? Is it just be considered the best overall all-around football team? Well, I guess, what are the goals in that room heading into a really exciting and big season in 2023?
Without putting words in the guys in everybody's mouth and speaking for the whole room, I know it's like you kind of mentioned some right there. Like obviously you want to lead the league and least amount of sacks allowed, and what's that exact rushing number? You want to play smash mouth football. We want to move people against their will. You want to create those creases and make sure that the offense that we're staying on schedule, scoring points, hitting explosive plays. And I think it's just knowing that everything matters now that like compiles into that. The reps, just kind of banking reps on situations that might show up here, looks. How do we want to get this on tape? Oh, do we want to tweak this? And those guys seeing that now, and I think we've hit that point now with this being year two with Ben Johnson calling the offense too, and just kind of these guys having familiarity with it, is those kind of some of those next level details now of that. It's not okay, this is just the play. It's okay, we're running this. Well, now let's try to bring this cell with this, or hey, why don't we really get on this and trust this, and then everybody understanding the jobs of what this job does for this, and so I think it's just that's a big part would be. In the short term was obviously, winning every day, making sure that you're proud of your body of work, but also, leaving it out there, leaving no doubt, and making sure that, do what needs to be done to, take the next step and, take care of business and, be a dominant, be the best offensive line in the NFL.
I know fans have to be excited just hearing some of that stuff, because with how good that unit was last year, now going into the second year of Ben Johnson, be able to take some of the details and some of the finer stuff and now translate just to make this overall offense that much better. It should be fun to watch. It's explosive. That's one of the best units in football. You're a part of that. Thanks for joining the show. I appreciate you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man. I'm excited for this year. It's going to be exciting for everybody.
Awesome. You guys are excited to hear it. Welcome back to the Twentyman the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and I am very happy to welcome in. Here's the pause because you want me to get the name. All right, I've tried this. This is one of the hardest ones for sure. Halapoulivaati Vaitai.
Halapoulivaati Vaitai.
Halapoulivaati. I was pretty close.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good.
That was good.
You're Big V to me because that's
It's a little easier.
Well, Big V, welcome back. And it's great to see you. We're coming right off OTA practice. Great to see you out there participating because obviously you missed all of the 2022 season with that back injury. Let's just go back a little bit to the preseason there, week 3. Just was it something that had kind of been nagging you? Was it something that just happened in the game? And,
obviously, during camp, you want to give everything you have, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to show anything, like any weakness. Just trying to support my boys, especially if the guys are out there, I'm going to go out there.
Yeah.
When week 3 came by in preseason, I started experiencing a lot of things. And I was like, all right. After the preseason game against Pittsburgh, I finally complained about my back and just had a couple MRIs and just, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. How disappointing was that news? And then as the year extended on and you were missing this, and backs can be finicky things, as you know, did retirement ever creep into your mind being out, or did you always kind of just know?
It definitely did because, you hear a lot of stories about this injury and a lot of guys, they don't make it back,
Yeah.
But I want to be the guy and try to beat the odds, right? I still got a lot of fire in me. Even though I'm only 30 years old, I feel like I'm still 21. But, my body's getting old.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where I heard the news and everything. They're like, "Hey, V, you gotta get surgery." I didn't put my head down or anything. I took that as an opportunity to experience what retirement would feel like.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you've got 3 small kids.
Mm-hmm. So it gave me a lot more time to hang out with my kids.
Yeah.
Just be home with my wife right before she had her baby, or my baby.
Congratulations,
Thank
6
you.
months old.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was a blessing.
Sure.
Right. It's just one of those things. We call this life. Right. There's always ups and downs. Right. Now the question is, are you going to bounce back?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now.
How fun is this? Just running around. I know it's OTAs and it's not training camp. You're not getting into the real competitive part of it yet. It's not the beginning of the season. Sometimes veteran guys like yourself maybe lament this time of year a little bit, but not for a guy that's lost a year, right? I mean, is this exciting just to be back
just
out
exciting,
there,
yeah.
running with
Just
the boys, being
getting
in the room?
classroom and being with the coaches? I did miss that.
Yeah.
I missed that a lot. I guess just hanging out with the guys.
Sure.
Right. And plus, I'm not used to being away from football.
Yeah.
Football is the only thing I know.
It's an adjustment.
And so, yeah, it's an adjustment. But, when I was able to lift weights a little bit, right, probably a month or 2 after surgery, I was like, I'm not ready to retire yet.
Yeah.
So I want to come back and give everything because I want to help Dan win one.
Yeah, and
That'd
some of those
be great.
Some of those guys in that room can maybe keep you young a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
A little Penei Sewell running around, 22 years old, and some of those guys that keep you young.
Yeah.
Talk about that room a little bit, because from the outside looking in, it looks like a great room. Obviously, you guys are one of the best offensive lines in football, talent-wise, depth-wise. It's one of the best, but it looks like it's a fun room, and you guys enjoy each other. And how important is that, Big V, to the overall play when you get on the field on Sunday?
When you have great chemistry, I feel like you can trust one another, right? You can joke around with him. Like Hank does a really good job keeping the meeting room alive, right? Because sometimes it get boring, obviously, but that's just that's work, right? Sometimes work can be boring, but Hank does a really good job trying to keep us energized. And not only that, but like you got the players like me, and then you got Taylor and all the vets trying to keep the guys up. But yeah, it's great.
And just what are some of the goals heading into, you're going to take a little break here in the summer, but heading into training camp then this season, the expectations for this offense, for this offensive line are so high based on what's happened the last 2 years, and especially last year. And then getting yourself back, a veteran guy who's won a Super Bowl, started a lot of games, to that line and to that right guard spot is going to be huge as well. Just what are some of the expectations? What are some of the things you guys have talked about, or have you not gotten to that point yet?
Well, obviously we want to be the best offense in the league, right? That's every team. Now the question is, how well is your mental strength? How well can you retain information and not being under pressure? Is probably one of the key things, because as you can see out there's a bunch of moving parts. But as an O-line, you got to dissect the math. You got to do the math everywhere. And just try and put us in the right position. So going into the season, I feel like our number one goal is, trust each other, and do everything we can to protect Jared, so that way we can get some big plays, and hopefully that'll help us in the season.
Second year of Ben's offense, he talked on Thursday about just the details and going back to the basics, and how getting that is the important part of this time of year. But is there a comfort level going into a second season with a play caller, with an offense, with a scheme? You guys just kind of understand it, know it now. Now you can maybe just get into the nitty gritty, get into the fine details.
Yeah, so now that this is Ben's second year, now we can get more creative, right? Now that we understand the playbook, the concepts, now can we take it a step further,
Yeah.
It's just trying to figure out ways to make the offense look good. And we're doing our best. And Ben's doing his best.
Yeah. And based off last year, I mean, it looked really, really good. So it's got to be exciting for you to kind of join that group running.
I want to help this team, yes.
And a couple more real quick. Penei Sewell, obviously we saw a Pro Bowler in his second season last year. He's talked about you kind of putting him under your wing, teaching him the ropes a little bit, being a big brother. He's really appreciated that. What was it about him that just maybe clicked right away? You guys formed that bond, and
yeah, you know, when he came into Detroit, I was like, yeah, you know, it's always good to see Polynesians in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. There's not many, but it's starting to grow, which is good. And then I feel like when I first met Penei, it's like I've known him forever, you know. But like when I was in Philly, I had a lot of older vets who took me under their wing. Right. I had the great Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks. You got Lane Johnson, right? They all took me under the wing. And so I wanted, now that I came over here, now we got some new guys coming in, I want to give my knowledge and everything I know. And
pay it forward.
Pay it
100%.
forward. I feel like that's how you should run as a team, right? Just have each other's back.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, after all, this is business, and so it's what I do on the field, right?
Yeah.
But that's just how I guess.
How good can Penei be?
Oh, great.
Yeah. Can he be a generational type guy?
Yeah.
He's that good?
He's that good.
Well, it's fun to watch him. It's certainly fun seeing you back, Big V. I mean, between Decker and Jonah and Frank and you and then Penei, I mean, that's an all-star five. There's a lot of expectations on that offensive line. You guys are going to be fun to watch, and thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate
thank you
taking the
so
time.
much. Yeah. Thank you.